All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got week number 16, some Saturday football to dive into in today's video. There's two Saturday games. I'm doing this game, then Toss is going to handle the later game. That'll be its own video here on the channel. But in today's video, I'm diving into the Chiefs and Texans game. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. Got a couple player prop spots that I'm liking in this game as well, so we'll dive into those. But as always, guys, make sure to keep an eye down on the pinned comment. That'll take you to our final plays, so you know what I'm actually rolling with myself. Absolutely free if that does interest you. In terms of week 15, how can I stop gloating about it, right? We absolutely cleaned up. Mainly on Sunday, we went 9-0. You know what? Pumping some more crowd noise. I know I've been gloating about it, but how can you not, right? And we started this week off pretty well as well. We go 3-1 in the Thursday Night Football game before Denver and the Chargers, and we were that close to a 4-0 night. Bo Nix has that tip pass that doesn't come down as an interception. But nonetheless, I'm not complaining about a 3-1 night. Before we dive into this one, though, go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. Make sure you guys are dropping your favorite plays down in the comments. I say it in a lot of my videos. There's a ton of people in the comments that are smarter than me, that are sharper than me, that are throwing out some absolute bangers down there and giving you guys some winners. So go ahead and interact with the comments down below. But what do you say we jump into this one? We got the Chiefs sitting here as 3.5-point favorites. The total is sitting at 41.5. If we want to talk playoffs, really isn't going to matter all that much in this spot. I do still think both teams want to finish hard and play strong or finish strong, play hard, I guess, right? But overall, both teams are playoff teams. So no real consideration there in terms of, oh my God, if they lose, they might not make it. They might care more than the other team, yada, yada, yada. No, both playoff teams in this spot. The Chiefs come into this one 13-1, 7-0 at home this season. Only one loss. It was on the road. And then Houston 9-5. Now, both teams kind of have been up and down against the number this year. Houston just 6-2, whereas Kansas City is 6-8. Now, before we do dive into the side and the total and the player props and whatnot, I do want to go through, I guess, both the defenses and how the quarterbacks might fit the bill and kind of play against these two defenses. So let's start with the Houston defense and talking about what they do and then how Patrick Mahomes might fit in there. So Houston doesn't apply all that much pressure. They don't blitz all that much. This is all based on the last 4 weeks, so I cut it up that way. They do play a ton of one high safety looks, though, which is kind of what I focused on here. So you see Patrick Mahomes, his completion percentage jumps when talking about one high safety coverage, whether that's man or zone. They kind of are, they play slightly over the last 4 weeks, a slightly more heavy zone approach, but it's not all that crazy. So I looked at it from just overall that one high safety look, right? His accuracy percentage also jumps, but his EPA, so his estimated points added, actually drops significantly, and so does his DVOA. So Patrick Mahomes may not be in the best situation here. I wouldn't sit here and say that he's in the worst. And you throw in the fact that, yeah, it's Patrick freaking Mahomes, right? So he's not in this world-altering good or bad situation, but I do think it's worth noting that, to some degree, we could expect a good game out of Patrick Mahomes just because he is Patrick Mahomes, right? There's not enough red here in this chart or on this table to say Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle in this spot. If you look at how he's been playing lately, even those last 4 weeks overall numbers, forget the one high safety look, right? Completion percentage under 61%, yards per attempt 6, a success rate 49.4, accuracy 70.4. It's yeah, obviously Patrick Mahomes just has kind of been meh over the last 4 weeks, and they've had some cupcake of a schedule, and it's yikes, Patrick Mahomes has struggled, but he shouldn't struggle or do any better, more so than he has recently against this Texans look. Now, CJ Stroud, there's a decent amount to look into. So first and foremost, pressure rate, blitz rate, sack rate. This has been a great Kansas City team on the season, but also in the last 4 weeks. You look at the coverage, they're going to play a ton of zone over the last 4 weeks, a ton of zone, and a lot of two high safety zones. So that's sort of the 4 things that we looked at here. This is a tale of 2 different CJ Strouds when we take a peek at it. So overall versus pressure versus the blitz, I do expect some CJ Stroud struggles, but when you look at it from playing zone versus man, and then you look at it from the two high safety zone look, CJ Stroud should have a very, very comfortable spot. He loves playing against zone over the last month or so, and he's been torching two high safety looks, so cover 2, that type of thing. So yeah, CJ Stroud could be in a good spot as long as the pressure does not get to him. Now, you might be hearing pressure, and, that's pretty much synonymous with this Houston offense. They've been getting pressured like you read about this season. But over the last 4 weeks, they've actually been a lot better. The 5th fewest pressure rate on the quarterback over the last 4 weeks. They've played Tennessee, Jacksonville, Dallas, Miami. Miami and Dallas over the last 4 weeks actually do get to the quarterback to some degree, but even still, I talked about Kansas City having somewhat of a cupcake of a schedule, right? We can't necessarily say that Houston's played any world-beating defenses as of late either. So, yeah, I hope for CJ Stroud's case, and we do have a player prop on him coming up in later on in the show here. I do hope that this line can hold and kind of prevent the pressure, because CJ Stroud should be in a comfortable spot as long as they don't get to him. But me saying as long as they don't get to him is a big sort of, as long as, or an if statement. Like, that's a pretty damn big deal. So where do we go in this spot, right? Where do we go for this game? Well, in terms of the defenses, yes, we know how they impact the quarterback. This Kansas City defense has looked very good over the last 4 weeks. Again, cupcake schedule, right? They played Carolina, Las Vegas, the Chargers, and Cleveland, and that was when the Chargers were still kind of figuring things out without J.K. Dobbins. They looked very good Thursday Night Football, but that was the first time in like 4 weeks that the Chargers looked good since losing J.K., right? Houston, on the other hand, yeah, their defenses look very good as well, but they allowed 32 points to Tennessee. Maybe that's something to be noted, but overall, Miami, with a healthy Miami, only 12 points allowed, right? Like, this Texans defense has been good all year, but I would give the recent defensive edge to Kansas City. But ultimately, this Kansas City team is not covering, right? And this is a very key number at -3.5. And though, yeah, they've already punched their ticket to the playoffs, the 1 seed, all of that stuff, I still do think that Houston comes into this one feeling like they have a chip on their shoulder, being the underdog, coming into Arrowhead late in the year. I like Houston plus the 3.5 points. I mentioned CJ Stroud's player prop. I don't think that, as long as the defense, the pressure is held off and that offensive line does what it needs to do and does what they've done over the last month, I do think that we could see CJ Stroud pick apart to some degree this Kansas City secondary. Do they have the worst secondary in the world? No one's saying that, right? But overall, I trust CJ Stroud against too high safety zone, more than I would that defense against him. So, yeah, I think that the Texans can keep this one close. Give me them plus 3.5. If this was like a 2.5 or, a -2, then, yeah, I would start to kind of feel out Kansas City. So that kind of gives you a peek into this dumb brain of like, yeah, it's not like I think the Texans run away with this. I don't even know if the Texans win this game. But I do think plus 3.5 is a crucial number in what I think, CJ Stroud, when he needs to score, when they need the ball, I think that they can go down there and do that. And like I said, their defense hasn't been great as of late, but this is still the number 1 defense from a DVOA metric on the season, both number 1 against the pass, number 1 against the run. So obviously a good defense going up against a good defense. I'm probably thinking under, right? Wrong. I think that this is also an over game. I flashed up the Patrick Mahomes, table in terms of how he should do against the Texans coverage and pressure. I flashed the CJ Stroud pressure and coverage. I think both quarterbacks can do their thing. And there's one receiver in particular that I think could be kind of an X factor, no pun intended, that'll make sense in a little bit, that could be huge for Kansas City. So I actually do like points in this one. I think they can get to 42. Like, I see a 27-24 game of Bruin, which obviously would crush this total. So that's what I like. And again, no matter which side you're on, whether the Texans are the 27 points or the 24 points, that 3.5 also gets covered. So, yeah, I do see a path to Kansas City if you look at their defense as of late. But again, they just played nobody. And I'm not saying the Texans have, but I do think CJ Stroud has a good game here. So give me the Texans plus 3 as well as the over 41.5. Now, before we do jump into the player props here, I want to talk to you guys about a freebie, a pick on sale for 0.5 passing yards. It is my man CJ Stroud here over on Sleeper Picks. They also have the best deal for sign up for new customers that they've had, I think, ever, but in a long time for sure. Play $5, get $55 back. You 11 extra money just by placing a $5 entry. I believe you get 11 $5 free rolls there, which is really, really cool. It's a great way to do it. Go check out Sleeper Picks, guys. That link will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. If you don't know what it is, you pick more or less based on player set projections. CJ Stroud, we're going to pick more on his 0.5, right? And you put those into an entry. The more you win, the more you get paid out. Each and every play that you throw into the entry changes the odds and the payout of that slip, dynamically. It doesn't just follow the fixed payout structure like a lot of other apps. So go ahead and check out Sleeper Picks. That link will be down below. Get the Stroud's free square as well as the Play 5, get 55 back promo that they have going on. But like I mentioned, We do have a few player props to jump into here. We're starting off with CJ Stroud. I do like his over 233.5 passing yards. That's the most common line. FanDuel actually has this at 228.5 right now, so you're getting 5 yards essentially free, right? Like in this spot. Does it change the hit rate all that much? Not really. Only one game, and that was just because he was 1 yard shy. So yeah, if you can only get it at 233.5, I don't necessarily mind it. We've seen some guys, I guess the most notable quarterback to torch Kansas City would be a couple weeks ago, the Black Friday game. Aiden O'Connell went for 300 plus, right? And like I mentioned, I think CJ Stroud is in a decent situation here in this spot, and the insights provided by Outlier. By the way, if you guys want this tool, the one that I'm looking at here, there's going to be a link down in the description. 7-day free trial to Outlier. But CJ Stroud has exceeded 228.5 passing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. They're 80% in the last 5 games. You can see it here, right? Filtering over. He's done it in 9 of 14 games this season. In his last 10, 6 of his last 10. So we like to see that. The one thing I will say, and I like to give you guys both sides, we filter to away games here. Yeah, only 3 games so far this season that CJ Stroud has hit it in. So the away games, especially in Arrowhead, could be a little difficult, but I already showed you the coverage and everything like that. I think CJ Stroud could have a decent game. Now I'm flipping over to the X factor, I think, this week for the Chiefs. I'm loving Xavier Worthy over 3.5 receptions. I really like his receiving yards. This is, if we go to our dashboard here, you can see wide receiver 2s. You could call Worthy the 1, I get that, but I do think that he's going to be utilized more, playing multiple positions. I'm putting DeAndre Hopkins as the wide receiver 1, so I'm kind of flipping this. Wide receiver 2s have plenty of success against this Houston Texans team, and he's hit it in 5 straight weeks. As he's gotten involved and more involved, he's been great. Now, Houston, not all that bad at preventing receiving yards, but you filter to wide receivers in particular, and it drops substantially, right? So obviously they've been good against the tight end, been good against running backs out of the backfield catching the ball, but wide receivers specifically, they haven't been all that tremendous. And honestly, for minus 105 odds, I like the spot for 40 plus for Xavier Worthy. One that I've also kicked around and played around with here is Isaiah Pacheco. Not his over, but his under 13.5 for his longest reception. You could see this season, he's hit the under in 4 of his 5 games. He had a huge one there. He broke one for 34 against this Las Vegas team. But this is a very good Texans team in terms of open field, one tackling, but open field rushing against when you look at adjusted line yards and whatnot. So I don't necessarily think that, Pacheco is going to break it to the outside and be golden. And the Chiefs don't even elect to do those sort of open field run schemes or run outside the tackles all that much. And we know Pacheco, right? He's going to get the ball and run a million miles an hour. Who cares who's in front of him? That doesn't always lead to 14-yard runs. We saw it. He's only done it once so far this season. So yeah, Pacheco under 13.5 for his longest rush could also be something that I'm considering here. But overall, guys, this should be a good game, right? Like, I'm sitting here giving you my take and telling you that I like the Texans, I like the over, and then those 3 player props. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. It'll take you to the Guy Boston site. You'll see all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself out of those ones, because even when we record this, we continue to do research and research and research before we put our hard-earned bread on a play, right? I'm just telling you what I think has value right now. You do with that information what you will. But overall, this one could obviously go either way. I'd be remiss to say that. I do like the Texans to cover, but, I might just root for points in this game and look at the over. I'm loving the player props that I threw out there, so maybe it's a player prop heavy week, or heavy game, I should say. But overall, yeah, I don't mean to talk anyone off. If you like the Chiefs and you've been like, the Chiefs have got it done this year and all that, yeah, I can see the path. Like that CJ Stroud getting pressured, those numbers, that would be the path. You know what I mean? If we see CJ Stroud under pressure right away in the beginning of this game, I think you might know how it ends. And honestly, that might even be a live play strategy. If you notice in the first couple plays of the game that this line defensively on the Chiefs is just getting right to CJ Stroud, you probably know 60 minutes later how this game's going to go. So maybe that's a strategy that I would throw out to you guys as well. We don't have the luxury of taking credit for those live plays because I got to get everything to you guys before the game. But overall, I'm rambling at this point. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 14. Appreciate you spending those minutes with me. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.